People like that will rub off on you. Wendy, my mother-in-law, remarked coldly. Don't even bother with sanitizing. Some carry antiseptic for garlic because it's the dry season. It was unclear if she carried it for that reason or something else, but one thing was clear. Her actions screamed malice. Mom, let's head home, I suggested, hoping to ease the tension. All right, I get it. Let's go, she replied distantly. As we drove home, my daughter Mary said something that sent a chill through the car. So your company's going under? Her words landed hard, sharp with anger. I'm Sasha James, 55 years old and a widow. I lost my husband, the love of my life, the same day my daughter Maria was born. He was a CEO, always busy but always made time for me. Despite my doubts about becoming a CEO's wife, he proposed and I accepted. But fate had other plans. The day Mary was born, my husband rushed to see us. After heart surgery, though it appeared successful, his heart failed on the way to the hospital. He never made it back to the delivery room. Despite the sorrow, I pressed on for Mary. Raising her alone was tiring, and sometimes I had to be harsh, like the time I scolded her for being mean to a friend at preschool. She tried to explain herself but ended up in tears. Being a single mom came with its own struggles, but Mary and I built a lifetime of memories together. Then came the day Mary graduated from college, turning 25. Happy birthday, Mary, I said, handing her a homemade cake. Mom, you made this? It's incredible, she said, smiling. Her smile lit up her face. This might be our last birthday, just the two of us, I said, glancing at the engagement ring on her finger. Next year we'll have a celebration with everyone, Mary responded. She had returned home days earlier, glowing as she showed off her silver ring. David proposed, she announced. They'd been together since high school, weathering many trials. As I watched, I felt a bittersweet tug in my heart. It'll be lonely when she leaves, I murmured, staring at the candle flickering. And to my surprise, tears came to my eyes. Mom, thank you for everything, Mary said, her voice steady. Even after I get married, I'll always be your daughter. David came over to ask for Mary's hand in marriage. Sasha, thank you for taking care of us for 10 years, he said seriously. I promised to make Mary happy. Please allow me to marry her. What should I do? I teased, lightening the mood. Mom, stop. Mary laughed, her face turning pink. We all laughed, and I knew Mary's happiness was with David. He had already become like family. We'd traveled together, and though his respect for tradition sometimes seemed over the top, I admired it. David, I said, Mary has always struggled to express herself. Be patient and talk things through with her. But if she ever does anything like cheat, I smiled. Bring her to me. Laughter filled the air, easing the tension. David's mother, Wendy, ran her own company and had repeatedly postponed our family meeting. Mom, it's just hard to find time since she's a CEO, Mary explained. I get it, I said, though I still felt uneasy. After several cancellations, Wendy finally said, a date, the last Saturday of the month. Don't cancel again, Mary said, her voice firm. When the day came, my anxiety grew. I dressed formally, worried Wendy might criticize casual clothing. Mom, you don't need to dress so formally, Mary said, trying to reassure me. I just have a feeling Wendy would find fault if I didn't, I replied. We arrived at the restaurant early, waiting for David and Wendy. When they entered, Wendy's presence immediately filled the room. She exuded confidence, sharpness, and an intimidating energy. I'm Wendy, David's mother, she said curtly, skipping pleasantries. Her tone was commanding, her movements graceful but calculated. She led the way inside without waiting for a response. Sorry about my mom, David whispered, clearly uncomfortable. She's always been like this. Even I find her difficult. It's all right, David, I said, forcing a smile. She feels like someone from a different world, almost like nobility. At the mention of nobility, David's expression shifted, but he didn't comment. Mom's insight, already let it go, Mary urged. The tension was palpable as I followed them into the private dining room. Wendy was already seated, her posture perfect, calculated. David, sit here. Mary there. And you by the door, Wendy instructed coldly. It felt like she was placing me at the lowest rank in the room. I hear you have back issues, Wendy said with a tight smile. You'll want to sit by the door in case she needs the restroom, perhaps even a wheelchair. Words were dripping with condescension. Thank you for the thought, I replied coolly. But wouldn't it be better for you to sit by the door? You might need it more. Wendy's face hardened, clearly unused to being spoken to in that way. No need to worry about me. Thank you for your concern, she replied coldly, her smile not reaching her eyes. The meal proceeded in strained silence, interrupted only by Wendy's smug comments. Didn't your parents teach you the proper way to eat? Wendy sneered. You start with soup, then bread, the main dish, and finally the sides. It's basic manners. She lectured us on dining etiquette, explaining that soup aids digestion. David smiled awkwardly, used to these rigid rules. But I had raised Mary differently. I taught her the basics. Don't chew loudly, don't talk with your mouth full, and never walk around during meals. Wendy's elaborate rules seemed more suited for a royal banquet. When Mary reached for the main dish first, Wendy's eyes flashed with disapproval. What Wendy is saying might be right, I interjected, breaking the silence. But isn't the essence of manners about considering others? Criticizing someone's manners is in itself poor manners. Wendy's face flushed, and she gripped the edge of the table. Talking to someone so uncultured is exhausting, she snapped. David, you should reconsider this marriage. Mary's mother is too crude for our family. Turning to Mary, she added, maybe you should cut ties with her and learn proper manners if you want to be our daughter-in-law. David begged her to stop, but she ignored him. Then, without warning, Wendy pulled a bottle from her bag and poured it over my head. The sharp sting of alcohol filled the air. People like you rub off on her, she smirked. You need to be sanitized. I froze, the liquid dripping from my hair. Mom, let her go, Mary said, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. Yes, I replied slowly, standing up. David remained frozen, pale and shocked. Mary grabbed my hand, glaring at Wendy, who only smirked back. I'm sorry, David, Mary said coldly. But don't apologize for her. She may think she's from some higher class, but soon enough, your company will go bankrupt. Wendy's smirk faltered as Mary's words hit their mark. Mary didn't wait for a response. She wiped the liquid from my clothes and led me out. We never saw Wendy again. Days later, David came to our home looking drained and regretful, his eyes filled with remorse. I should have said sorry earlier, David admitted, his voice shaky. But I've been trying to get my mom to acknowledge her mistakes. She won't listen, so I came to apologize on my own. His body sagged, burdened by his own words. David wasn't my biological son, but he'd been part of our lives for a decade. Seeing him like this was painful. Come inside, David, I said softly. Let's sit down for some tea. You've been through a lot. How are you holding up? He paused, gathering his thoughts. Truth is, I've always resented my mom, he admitted. She's always made me feel like I owe her for raising me, constantly pushing me to meet her expectations. I could relate. Growing up, I was always told I was the heir, expected to follow the family path. But in high school, I chose public school with a baseball team over the prestigious private school my mother wanted. David's expression softened as he spoke again. That's when I met Mary. She was the manager of the team. I fell for her. And no matter what my mom says, I want to marry her. Please. I need to marry her. David knelt before me, his eyes wet with tears. David, look up, I said gently, placing my hand on his shoulder. This isn't about me, it's about you and Mary. Over the years, I've seen how much you care for her. If you love her, you don't need my approval. You have my blessing. Tears rolled down David's cheeks, a wave of relief overcoming him. I knew his mother's influence had been terrifying, but his tears spoke volumes about how deeply he loved Mary. David, I said softly, if you want to make Mary happy, you need to break free from your past. I get it, he said, nodding. It's my mom, right? I nodded. I'm tired of living in fear of her, he said, his voice steady. My dad, who's still in the hospital, was the only one who ever really understood me. He always said my mom couldn't see beyond her ambitions. For his sake, I'm ready to move forward. I met his gaze. I'll support you and Mary, but the next step is yours to take. I will, he said firmly. The day arrived. Wendy walked into the restaurant with a sour expression, clearly unimpressed by the modest setting. What is this? Cheap place? She sneered. These are the adoption papers, I said, sliding the documents across the table. Toward her adoption, she asked, confusion written on her face. Yes, David is officially joining our family. This is absurd, Wendy shouted, standing up and slamming her hand onto the table. He's my only son. How dare you try to take him from me? Her anger shifted into venom as she turned to glare at Mary. This marriage is a joke. Mary isn't good enough for David. We're in a different class. We help people like you, not the other way around. I stayed calm. Why are you so obsessed with status, Wendy? I work with wealthy clients, but the truly wealthy don't act like this. It's only those who have recently come into money who feel insecure. Wendy's composure cracked. Don't compare me to them, she hissed. I was born into wealth. Your actions speak otherwise. What are you so afraid of? At the word afraid, Wendy froze. David told me you grew up being told you weren't good enough because you were a girl, I said. Her lips quivered. So what? She snapped. I was born a girl in a family where only men mattered. I had to marry an older man to keep my family status intact. Her bitterness was evident, and her obsession with status became clear. That's why you care so much about David being the heir. But if he marries Mary, your perfect family lineage will be. Shut up, Wendy screamed, cutting me off. The door opened and David's father, Brian, entered, pushed in a wheelchair by David. Though still recovering, he had been allowed to leave the hospital for this meeting. Wendy's face drained of color. No, you misunderstood, she stammered. I never thought marrying you was humiliating. You were just. Brian, interrupted David tiredly. Dad says divorcing you, Mom. David, Wendy's voice cracked. No, please say something. But Brian stayed silent, refusing to look at her. Sorry to interrupt, Mary said calmly. But we finalized the paperwork. Wendy flinched, nervous. Oh, and by the way, Mary added, I own a significant amount of stock in your company. Wendy's eyes widened. What? That's impossible. It's true, Mary replied with a slight smile. I've held a large number of shares in your company for quite some time. Wendy's face paled. Wait, were you that anonymous investor? That's right, Mary confirmed. How could a poor family like yours afford that? Wendy demanded. I've been managing my late husband's company, and Mary has been helping me run it, I explained. We've decided to sell our shares in your company. Wendy's face lost all color. No, please don't. If you sell now, the company will collapse under its debt. After you're gone, I'll buy back the shares. David's tone was icy. You've been embezzling money from the company, haven't you, Mom? No, I was just borrowing a little. I'll pay it back, she protested. Even if you own the company, you can't use company funds for personal reasons, David said. You could face criminal charges. I've looked into everything, Mom. You've been dealing with loan sharks, haven't you? Tears streamed down Wendy's face. I did. I didn't have a choice. I'll pay them back. Just don't sell the shares. It's too late for that, David said firmly. From now on, you're no longer the head of the company. Please don't do this. I'll lose everything. Wendy begged. David's expression remained emotionless. Mom, you've always treated me like a tool, not your son. No, I love you. If that's true, then tell me. What's my favorite food? Wendy fell silent. You see, David said quietly. You don't even know. I'm just a tool to you. Now you'll have to fend for yourself. After David severed ties with her, Wendy's life crumbled. She was ostracized by her family, removed from her position as head of the company, and sued for embezzlement. She fled town, only to be arrested for theft and sentenced to prison, where no family members visited her. Meanwhile, David and Mary quietly began their life together. They had a small, intimate wedding with close family. One day, Mary invited me to a baseball game. On the way home, she handed me a black and white photo. Mom, she said with a smile. You're going to be a grandmother. I haven't told David yet. I wanted you to be the first to know. Tears filled my eyes. I'm so happy. We went to the game together, I said. Next time let's bring the whole family. Mary nodded. Watching her, David, and my grandchild from a distance, I realized that what seemed like an ordinary day was, in fact, a moment filled with meaning and joy. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay amazed.